If you're looking at Castro Valley and trying to get the real picture, not just the highlight reel, this is the video for you. Because after living here for over 20 years, I can tell you most of what gets said about Castro Valley online is either all sunshine and rainbows or all complaints, and neither one is honest. So in this video, I'm giving you the real pros and cons, not the price breakdown. I already made a video about that. This one is about what it's actually like to live here day to day. Let's start with what people get right. The schools are the single biggest reason families move here, and the reputation holds up. Castro Valley Unified serves about 9,500 students from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade, and the district carries an overall A grade. Castro Valley High School specifically ranks among the better public schools in the state and is one of the top ranked high schools in Alameda County. Parents I work with consistently tell me the same thing. Teachers who actually know their kids' names, a real sense of community at back to school night, and a diversity of programs that a lot of similarly priced districts just don't have. This was a big reason why we picked Castro Valley. Our kids went to the public schools that we have, and we have no regrets. Now, I'll be straight with you. It's not a perfect 10. Some of the reviews from the students themselves mention older facilities, and I want to see more investments there. In fact, years ago, when our kids were in high school, they told me that they didn't like using the toilet facility in school because they were gross. Now, I don't know if that has changed, but I hope so. So the academics and the community are strong. The buildings are not brand new. That's kind of a fair trade-off for most families, but you should know that going in. Now here's something people underestimate about Castro Valley. The location is genuinely central. You've got a BART station right in town, so you can get to Oakland, San Francisco, without touching the bridge traffic. Heck, you can even go all the way to San Jose now. You've also got the 580 and the 880, both running right through, plus the 238 connecting them. So no matter which direction your job is, you've got a straight shot. That's rare in the Bay Area. A lot of towns give you one good freeway and call it a day. Castro Valley gives you options, and options matter when your job situation changes, or maybe your spouse's job also changes 5 years down the road. And then there's the part that never shows up in a spreadsheet, the actual lifestyle. Lake Chabot is right here with miles and miles of trails and a reservoir that feels like you left the Bay Area entirely, even though you're 15 minutes from a BART station. Now, I keep saying this in my videos. I actually found this town because of Chabot. I was out mountain biking those trails years ago, and I realized this is where I wanted to plant our roots. Now, beyond the park, Castro Valley has that in-between feel that a lot of buyers are looking for. It's not as buttoned up and manicured as the Tri-Valley, and it's not as urban as Oakland. It's a working, lived-in community. Little league on the weekends, a rodeo every year. Neighbors who've been here for decades next to young families just getting started. If you want a place with real texture instead of a planned community feel, that's Castro Valley. Now here's the thing about a town like this. The pros I just listed hit differently depending on which part of Castro Valley you're actually looking at. And that's where most buyers get stuck. I hear from people every single week trying to figure out if they want the flats near the boulevard or up in the hills. And honestly, it depends entirely on what you want your daily life to look like. So if you're seriously considering a move here, call, text, or email me. Tell me 2 or 3 things you love and 2 or 3 things you can't stand, and I'll tell you exactly which pockets of Castro Valley actually fits you. And hey, grab my free East Bay relocation guide in the description below. It walks you through this same kind of breakdown for the whole region. All right, now let's get into the honest cons, because that's the whole point of this video. Here's one nobody talks about. Castro Valley is not actually a city. It's an unincorporated community, which means there's no mayor and no city council. Local decisions get made at the Alameda County Board of Supervisors, the same body that oversees dozens of other incorporated areas across the county. Now, honestly, years ago, this didn't really matter to me, but the longer I have lived here, the more I realize that this matters. When you have a suggestion, there's no mayor or city council that you can come or hold accountable. So what this means in practice is that Castro Valley doesn't have the same direct local control that Pleasanton or Dublin or San Leandro over the things like zoning or businesses or developments, or more importantly, how the tax dollars get spent locally. There's actually an active conversation happening right now about whether Castro Valley should be incorporated into its own city, and that debate has been going on for years without a resolution. If having a strong, independent local government matters to you, this is a real factor to weigh in, not a footnote. Here's the second honest one. Castro Valley doesn't have a single unified identity. It has two. Down in the flats near Castro Valley Boulevard, you get the classic auto-oriented commercial strip, useful, full of everyday shopping, but it's not the kind of charming, walkable downtown you find in Danville or Pleasanton. Up in the hills in 94552, you get a completely different feel. Quieter, more space, more trees, but you're also further from BART, and you'll deal with more wind and fog rolling through, especially in the evenings, even during summer. So depending on which part of town you land in, your day-to-day experience can look pretty different. That's not a deal breaker, but it means you can't judge all of Castro Valley off of one drive down the boulevard. And if a real cohesive downtown with a town square feel is what you're picturing, this isn't quite that, at least not yet. Here's another one I'll be straight about because I see it firsthand. Along parts of the boulevard, there are street vendors operating without permits, without paying the same taxes, and without the health inspections that every food store, storefront business around them has to go through. And if that doesn't go unaddressed, it usually doesn't stay small. It tends to grow. For the business owners doing the right way, paying their fees, passing their inspections, that's not a minor annoyance. That's an unfair playing field. It's something local enforcement is aware of, but enforcement hasn't been consistent. And it's worth knowing about if you care about how the boulevard develops over time. So where does that leave us? The schools are genuinely strong, the location is about as central as it gets in the East Bay, and the lifestyle around the lake is real, not marketing. On the other side, you're buying into a community without its own city government, and one that's still figuring out its identity between the flats and the hills. For the right buyer, someone who wants strong schools, an easy commute in any direction, and doesn't need a postcard downtown to feel at home, Castro Valley is hard to beat. For someone who wants a fully self-governed small town with a defined center, it's worth going in with your eyes wide open. If you want to see how Castro Valley actually compares to a neighboring city, I made a full breakdown of Castro Valley versus Dublin that gets into the details. I'll link it in the description below or right here right now. Check that out next. I'm Mac Rogers. Thanks for being here. So like I said, this trail connects to the Columbia Trail, and that little thing that goes underneath over, that's Columbia Drive. If you go underneath, the trail goes all the way up to the other end. It's kind of creepy every time I go in there, but now they closed it. See, Chabot Garin Trail. That's the parking lot, obviously.